Canada's strong. We can give ourselves far more than anyone can take away. We're building this great country. I just met with the Premier, building BC, building Canada, building in a Canadian way, building sustainably, building together, building positively, and that's what we're going to do. And yes, we will we'll come to something with the Americans, something constructive with the Americans.
Regardless, all of this uncertainty around our tariffs is leading to some of our greatest allies and trading partners working around us, sometimes literally. In fact, a few days ago, it was reported that Canada and Mexico are working on a, quote, Northern Corridor Agreement, a $120 billion investment to create easier trade between Mexico and Canada without involving the United States.
This is not just a trade deal. This is a geopolitical message. The Northern Corridor Agreement between Canada and Mexico is a high-investment trade route, linking two of the U.S.'s closest partners, without the U.S. at the table.
So I'm not in the camp that all is lost, that we can't bring this back.
Hey, well, I'll take that.
It may require different leadership in the United States to be able to make that to happen. And this one is a little different than the first Trump administration because it seems more personal. And I, as you, still talk to a lot of Canadians, you know, not as a journalist, and me not as a former diplomat, but as a friend. And we've hurt the Canadians. We've disrespected them, and we've hurt them. And it takes more to be able to build back a relationship when you've undercut the underpinnings of the relationship.
I also had as good a chance of seeing you in Canada. Until recently, you were the ambassador to Canada. And I just want to start with this point, and I think most Americans know this and all Canadians know this. There are few relationships in the world like the relationship between Canada and the U.S. Sure, it's underpinned by trade, but it's actually, it's a lot more, it's a lot deeper.
It's a much deeper and more durable relationship. I describe it as a relationship that is based on common values, on 150 years of partnership and allyship, and it does include trade, but it crosses defense, intelligence, culture. I mean, on a foreign policy basis, the United States and Canada are aligned in the pursuit of democracy around the world. And President Biden, I think, sort of nailed this when he repeatedly made the point that the United States has no better friend, partner, or ally than Canada. Big believer in the importance of relationships. When you look at foreign policy, when you look at America and America's role in the rest of the world globally, our relationships matter. And having and maintaining and preserving those close relationships is an important part of what makes the United States an important country in the world. And when you blow up a relationship as important to that process as the U.S.-Canada relationship, there are consequences. I will say, however, and I'm known for trying to be balanced, and hopefully I am balanced. This has happened before. We've seen this play before in the first presidency of Donald Trump. The trust quotient, if you will, between the United States and Canada took a big hit. And it was a major priority of President Biden and of me as the United States ambassador to Canada to rebuild that trust. And the polling that tracks this U.S.-Canada relationship demonstrated a precipitous drop in the U.S.-Canada relationship.
Something just shifted in North America, and not for the better. On live American television, former U.S. Ambassador to Canada David Cohen did what very few diplomats ever do. He admitted the U.S. has disrespected Canada, and worse, he implied the damage may now be irreversible under the Trump administration. This comes just days after Washington slapped Canada with a brutal 35% tariff, a move that blindsided Ottawa, and some would say was designed to humiliate. But while Washington was drafting penalty tariffs, Canada was working on a strategic counter, a trade agreement with Mexico that deliberately excludes the United States. Let's break down what just happened what David Cohen revealed, and why this might be the beginning of a very different North America. The deal isn't symbolic, it's strategic. Washington may be trying to isolate Canada with economic pressure, but Ottawa is responding by isolating the United States diplomatically. For a long time, Canada prioritized proximity and history with the U.S., but with that trust breaking down, it's building fresh lanes with partners who are willing to cooperate on equal terms. And who's driving this strategy? Prime Minister Mark Carney. No bluster, no theatrics, just serious policymaking and forward-looking diplomacy. The U.S.-Canada relationship used to be defined by more than trade. Defense cooperation, intelligence coordination, shared environmental goals, cultural bonds. It was as close to a family relationship as diplomacy allows. When the U.S. turned hostile, it didn't just threaten Canada's exports, it insulted a century and a half of partnership. For decades, Canada stood by the U.S. in everything from global military alliances to border security to counterterrorism. That kind of relationship doesn't get rebuilt with one phone call. It gets rebuilt with trust. And right now, that trust is gone. David Cohen, who once helped stabilize this partnership after Trump's first term, admitted that the relationship has suffered another blow, and maybe one that will be harder to fix. Under Trump's return to power, the tone has shifted from cold pragmatism to outright hostility. He made clear that in his time as ambassador, he saw how deeply Canadians value the U.S. alliance, and how deeply they felt betrayed when that alliance was weaponized. He warned of a precipitous drop in bilateral trust and made it clear that repairing it may require different leadership in Washington. This isn't just about tariffs anymore. The damage is emotional, and that makes it more difficult to repair. Cohen openly admitted that the U.S. has disrespected Canadians, and not just diplomatically, but in ways that have genuinely caused hurt. That acknowledgement should set off alarms in Washington, because once respect is lost in foreign relations, it takes years, sometimes decades, to return. Canada is no longer approaching the relationship from a place of goodwill, but from self-preservation. Mark Carney's approach has been steady and deliberate. His response to U.S. aggression hasn't been retaliation, but redirection. The Northern Corridor deal with Mexico is a textbook example of how nations can reorient their alliances when old ones become unreliable. This wasn't a last-minute reaction. It was a pre-planned move, likely months in the making, and it signals that Canada is not waiting around for the U.S. to come to its senses. Under Carney, Canada is embracing a future where its economic security no longer depends on the mood swings of Washington. America once considered Canada its most reliable ally, its cultural and economic twin. But loyalty is a two-way street. A relationship built over generations is now being sacrificed for populist political points, and allies around the world are watching. David Cohen's words carry weight not just because of what he said, but because of who he is, a figure who knows the cost of broken diplomacy, and the cost this time may be long-term estrangement from a country that used to be called America's best friend. Canada is pivoting, quietly but decisively, and it's not doing it in anger, it's doing it in clarity. The 35% tariff may have been the spark, but the fuel has been building for years. If this is the future of North America, then Washington may soon find itself alone, not by accident, but by consequence. Thanks for staying till the end. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Canada Today if you haven't already.